Hi guys, it's Aegis here. So today I'm here with another Destined deck profile, and this I'll be covering the Destined One of Infinity Levidras. So it's the new Destined One that we get for Stoichia, and he uses markers, which I think it's been a while since we start placing markers since the Dragon Tree markers, and this deck is actually quite fun and interesting. It's not easy to pilot. You do need to practicing it quite a lot in order to make sure what you're doing, because that's what I'm trying to do as well. I have been trying different cards and looking into especially the energy usage in this deck is very heavy, so I've made some options before and I've made changes to it after, which is the build that I'm going to show you. So for the right line, I'm using its own right line. I do see people using the old Saga right line with Anger Chain and Hush Dragon so that they can draw more cards, and because they are likely to use a little bit more order cards. But to me, I think the right line itself is still great, because I get to do some searches with Energy Blast free here, and I can save myself at least one turn not using any cards from hand to ride is still great. And then when we get to our main guy, he has two skills, which is a once per turn Vanguard Circle counterblast one skill, just one of your and your opponent Vanguard Circle, and put the Infinity Ice marker to those circles. And if your stuff boosting or attack, or when your opponents to do that, if it's yours, then you can choose to get plus 10k for those units. Well, it's basically allows you both to have plus 10k or minus 10k, right? Which usually you will plus yourself and minus your opponents, and you will need to remove the markers if you choose to get your opponent's unit to be minus 10k, but you get to draw a card instead. Which you might think it is always good to keep spamming and using all your markers to minus your opponent's regards 10k whenever you can and draw cards, right? But because to place markers you need to counterblast for it usually, and if your opponents somehow damage deny you and you can't place markers to them, some of your effects might not be able to go active, right? So it's still important sometimes to leave at least a marker on your opponent's side, which can activate a lot of your effects, and sometimes to be the actual saver when you actually need it instead of just spamming it, right? So do need practice. There's no like absolute rules into when is the right moment to remove the markers, but just for practicing. And the Define skill, if your opponent is having a graveyard higher Vanguard, you can Soul Blast one instead of Counterblast. Then choose one of yours and your opponent's regards each and put the markers on those circles. And this unit will get plus 10k and one critical attack out of turn. So if you look into this skill, some people might say the plus 10k and critical is like kind of a meh, because it's so kind of still easy to get blocked. But to me, I think the 10k and crit is actually a plus, like something extra. The more importantly is to have one of each markers on both sides, right? Because there are skills that requires you have 3 markers on your end, and if you need to wait for that, you need to use your Vanguard X skill for 3 times, which is 3 turns, and it is too slow. And this Divine skill make it 1 turn shorter, so that you can actually do your stuff faster. So it's still very important to know about that. And as I do say, you have limited time to give your opponent regard circles the markers, right? So it's basically you give one, you use one, you give one, you use one. So it's really hard to just keep one to your opponent's side of the field while you only have one, right? Always. But this at least gives you a chance to put another one there, then you can just work on it. But sometimes your opponents might just not using those circles, but yeah, they eventually should be using it. So that's why I say using this tech requires a lot of practice, and it's not that easy to pilot. Right, going to our main deck, we actually do need souls. So we need to have person right, and the power that we get from person right is very key for us to win games. Even though our regards is hitting big, our Vanguard doesn't always hit big, and that is also why I'm using the ground as the regular piece. I tried some defensive options because they use energy, and as I said, the energy usage in this deck is actually very, very high, so I changed to this instead. Okay, and next there is the new card, which is on for Enotogasti. So this is our wonderful insects cards. When it's on place, if you have a marker, Infinity Eyes marker in the same corner as this unit, you can energy blast free. To the top 2 cards of the deck, choose a card among them, add to your hand, and rest to the top or bottom, and then this unit will get plus 5k. So you get to see through the future, hopefully get yourself some triggers to threaten your opponent. Or maybe if you see a PG, you can just, well, if you see like 2 PGs, you can just put the other one on the top, so your opponent might just afraid it is a trigger, but it's actually a PG. So there's a lot of things you can play around with this skill. It's got a continuous as well during your turn if you have a Graveyard Hard Vanguard with Levidras in its card name, and if you have 3 or more Infinity markers. So that's why the defense skill is very important. This unit will get plus 5k, and if you do not have another back row regard with the same name as this card, it can attack from the back row. This part of the skill is basically free as long as you have 3 markers, and when you have a grade 3 or higher Vanguard with Levidras in the card name, it doesn't even require the opponents to be grade 3. So it's, well, you basically, at least for now, you can't do it on your first turn grade 3 ride, because you can only get 1, and even if you go second, that's only 2, right? So it's not possible to get things on your first grade 3 ride, which will be the second one. And like I said, if you don't have the Define skill to generate more markers, you need to wait 3 turns in order to use this to attack from the back row for free. So, well, that will make the card very, very bad. But even though you can look at the top 2 cards and find something good and place 1 to top or bottom, but yeah, being able to attack from the back row with the support of the marker is very important, because if you fully utilize the skills, it's a plus 10k on itself, plus 10k from the markers is a 30k beater. So you can see if we can just utilize this as a back row attacker, then we generate 4 attacks, right? So those attacks will be a lot more meaningful when they actually hit big. Or else, when your opponents hit a defensive trigger, that's basically the end of the turn. And next, we have Packclaw Hunter Holy. So this is a rare from the set, and have it on place on Regard Circle. If you have a Infinity Eyes marker in the same column, in color blast 1, choose a grade 3 or less card from drop and call it to Regard Circle. If you have 3 or more markers, it will give us 10k until end of turn. So this card, yet again, requires you to have 3 markers in order to utilize her effects. So you can see how important it is to keep 3 markers. And some people might actually save it when you have 3 markers, but sometimes I will just use it to build up my board so I can rush faster while I can. And whenever I have 3 markers, then I can even just go in a lot harder, right? So yeah. That's how I think about this. And sometimes I'll just play her down because she is not a on place from hand. So if you kind of revive her, you can still use the skill. So it's still okay to just use her to rush if you don't have other parts. And then I'm running 2 of the differing arms of Collapse C. So this is a good card that boosts power. If you play a normal order, you get +5. If your Riga was placed from the drop, which might not happen, you will get +5. And when this unit attacks, if it's a 4th battle or this turn or more, then you will get another 5. So usually you will get the +10, right? Play order 4 more attacks because this already generates the 4th attack. And we have another multiple attack generator, which is Full Knowledge Foxil. So this is a special booster for Levidras, which will have a total of 2 skills combined. If you were boosting it as a Vanguard, it will get +5k and then +2k. And on top of the +2k skill, you can counterblast 1 and choose one of your back row regards at the end of that turn. That unit can attack from the back row and get +10k power. So not only it makes your guys to attack from the back row, and it covers that you might not have a marker placed on that circle, so it gives you 10k so that you can hit without any trigger calculation. So that is great, and that makes you can basically do 5 attacks every single turn as long as you have 3 or more markers, because this requires you to have 3 or more. And then we have our Knight of Illusory Silence, Clarence. So he is our counter charge parts. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked a boost if you have a Infinity Ice marker in the same color as this unit, and you have not counter charged this turn. You can put this card in soul and soul charge 1. So help you to build your soul, which we will use it from other cards, and we get to at least counter charge 1, so that we can save a skill for at least for this or for this, right? And because you can use it to attack and still put it into soul and counter charge, which means you can use your Foxtail to give this power and then use this as an attack and then just go in and counter charge. If you place a marker on the circle that he's in, then plus Foxtail is making it a 28k, so it's still pretty decent, I would say. And then one of the little gem beast just for extra defensive if you want to, because I usually won't be reusing any of these usually, so whenever I get to soul blast them, I can just use them, right? So that's totally fine. And PGs, I'm just using the normal PGs just fine, but if you want to use a Blitz Order, you can. And let's talk about other order cards. So this is his own custom order, searching for infinite knowledge. It's a grade 3 order, and it requires you to energy blast 2, and if you have a Levidras Vanguard, which you can't use in other decks, unfortunately. And sometimes the energy blast 2 is causing you problems sometimes, but I think the skill that it applies is still good, so I'm still putting 1 of it in there. I tried it 4 and it kind of hard to use, so I turned it to 1. So the skill is just a card with grade less than or equal to your Vanguard from your drop, call it the Riga Circle, and that unit will get plus 5k for each infinite ice marker in the same column as the called unit. So if you have 2 on your side, it will get plus 10 if you call it on there. I feel the energy blast is actually quite heavy while we are using a lot of energy for other things, but the extra power plus can sometimes be really helpful, so I'm still putting 1 in there, not to hurt. And then 4 of the Frozen Resentment. Not only that, it's Soul Blaster's card, so I can use the Gem Beast to just Soul Blast our right line with this and then reuse with this, right? But we also get the filter attack to put some parts to the drop so that we can reborn them with these orders, which I also have a Spiritual Body Condensation for the reborn, which very unfortunately that we are turning this order into the more generic ones, because one, we do have ways to soul charge quite a bit and we want to use those souls, so these are better options. And second, they don't use any energies, so it won't conflict with other energy usage of the deck, which makes it a lot flexible. Because when you have 2 where you only have like 4 energy, then you can't use, right? Or yeah, because like if you go into 6, you use this to -2, right? And then you only have 4, so you can only use it for 1 skill. But if you use this, then you can keep that 6 energy and blast it for 2 effects. So I think using these are still better. I tried this, like even maxed it out, and unfortunately I don't like it, and I even tried to use Brave Shooter for the defensive draw, but it really turns into limiting how I use my energy, and I think it actually backfires. So I took 3 of these out, 3 of my Brave Shooter out to actually use something else. Triggers. The Suikia one is good enough. If you want to use like the Fire OT, you can. Water OT, you can. Light OT, I would say probably not, because your Vanguard will likely get PG'd on the turn you use Define skill anyway, so rather not. Dark OT probably not. Generic OT probably not. So it's probably this, Fire, Water. Maybe. Well, yeah, probably just those 3, I would say. And this gives you so many effects, so that's fine for me. And then crits, I'm just using 7 crits of total of your choice. I rather keep these as my shield value, so I'm not like maxing out the sewing crit right there. But if you want to be safe, you can always put it maxed out. And then 4 of the 10k draws, because keeping a decent hand size is actually quite important. Which unfortunately I was trying to make more like a defensive build at first, but given that your Vanguard power isn't actually very big without the fossil, this is like 13 to 23. If you constantly have your fossil, it's a constant 28, and then if you use defense skill, it's already 8. But the number is still not very big. But we do need to actually somehow still survive, because if we uses all our resources and our field get popped, especially when you are facing like Blockmire, which it will just bind all your stuff, and I play that against it. It's not like the anime where you get to control your opponent if you don't go in rushing. So I rather give myself options that I can actually swing earlier with slightly higher power to make my opponents drop cards early game, and then use a slightly higher power, which is like a mid level of power, to control even more with the markers and win from there. And then I'm ending with 4 heals. Just normal heals is fine. Yeah, so the concept of this build is more allowing myself to attack earlier and try to get at least 3 attacks early game, because if we actually go into a later game, it will just make things worse. Because for current decks, there's a lot of them that draws like a bunch, who drive checks a bunch, or even just hit you so big that you don't have enough cards to guard. So in order to prevent that, we will need to use as much ways as possible to limit our opponent's resources, which is by attacking more, attacking with decent power attacking early. And this deck can actually do that. I might still try to look for a more defensive build, maybe, but that will involve a little bit more on like Blitz Order and such, which I'm still looking into how to do that. But so far, this kind of slightly early rushing build is actually giving me a better time, while I can still do certain amount of controls with the markers. Yeah, so do give it a try. Feel free to let me know other options you use in the comments down below. Again, I will be looking into a more defensive option if possible or not, because I need to actually test it through the power level and see. Yeah, do let me know in the comments down below. Subscribe for more deck profiles, deck fights, unboxing videos. And that's it for today. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you guys in the next video. Signing off.